Coming up in a newscast tonight. The chances of Pyongyang and Washington opening up for talks with each other have increased following a highly anticipated visit by their respective delegations to the Winter Olympics closing ceremony. PyeongChang 2018 came to a close after being the platform for numerous records, including the biggest number of participants and events. Making it even more memorable was the peaceful mood the Games helped set on the Korean peninsula. Hundreds of athletes, cheerleaders, and journalists, among other North Korean visitors, went back home by crossing the inter-Korean border through the land route. Both sides expressed hopes of doing more together. NEWSCENTER begins now. It's 8 p.m. here in Korea, coming to you live from our studio in Seoul. This is Arirang News Center. Welcome to our program. I'm Daniel Choi. Seoul continues to make various efforts to keep the dialogue momentum alive. For the second straight day, the president's key officials met with the North Korean delegation. Our Chief Cheondae correspondent Moon Jae-in starts us off.
The historic moment of unity that brought the two Koreas together for the first time in years is now over. The last 2 weeks of outreach have been sweet and friendly, but what happens from here on forth is what actually matters. The bare politics of things. How do we make sure the Olympicdriven detente last? The choices lay bare South Korean President Moon Jae-in's predicament, evidently on his mind, as he greeted Chinese President Xi Jinping's special envoy to the Olympics closing ceremony, Vice Premier Liu Yan-dong at the Blue House on Monday.
이번 동계올림픽을 계기로 이루어진 남북 대화 이 분위기를 올림픽 이후까지 지속해 나가는 것이 대단히 중요하다고 생각합니다. 우리 한반도의 비핵화와 또 평화 구축을 위한 남북 간의 대화, 그리고 또 그것을 위한 북미 간의 대화에 대해서 중국 쪽에서도 적극적으로 지지하고 협력해 주시기를 부탁드립니다.
South Korean media had been abuzz with suggestions that some kind of talks between North Korea and the U.S. could take place while the respective delegations, U.S. led by its presidential advisor and first daughter Ivanka Trump, and the North by a former spy chief Kim Myung-chul were in town. The Ivanka-led delegation left South Korea Monday, and there has not been any word of interaction between the Americans and the North Koreans. The Blue House did announce, however, that President Moon's chief security advisor and other key officials had lunch with the North Korean delegation, releasing a brief statement that reads, "The two sides agreed to work together for permanent peace in the Korean Peninsula, sustainable relations between North and South Korea, and balanced cooperation with the international society." Little is known at this point whether there has been any progress in the South Korean president's efforts to bring North Korea and the U.S. to the dialogue table, whether there had been any interaction between the two, even if low-key and working level, and whether North Korea has attached preconditions for starting talks with the U.S.
Now, what we do know is that something is in the works behind closed doors between the two Koreas, with the South Korean president ever mindful that he must make headway before the Winter Paralympic Games come to an end on March 18th. Now, that's when Seoul and Washington have said their mass joint military drills, which North Korea may have laid out as a precondition for talks with the U.S., will begin shortly thereafter. Moon Jae-in, Arirang News, the Blue House.
North Korea's Kim Yong-chul was known to have told President Moon Jae-in the regime is willing to talk with Washington. What's most surprising is that the comment came reportedly despite the liberal leader's direct mention of Pyongyang's denuclearization. Woo Jung-hee has the full story.
We now know that North Korea repeatedly said it's willing to talk with the United States, even though South Korea spoke directly of denuclearization. The leader of North Korea's high-level delegation, Kim Yong-chul, met with South Korean President Moon Jae-in on Sunday, shortly before the closing ceremony of the Olympics. Kim said Pyongyang is willing to talk with Washington, but the initial response from the White House was simply, "We'll see," and that talks would depend on a commitment to denuclearize. On Monday, it turned out that President Moon in his meeting with the North Korean general actually brought up the need for denuclearization. President Moon is reported to have said that if North Korea halts its nuclear and missile provocations and returns to the path of dialogue, then the international community will cooperate on related measures. It's reported that the North Korean delegates listened to President Moon but showed no particular reaction. Sunday's meeting was the first time North Korea has openly and clearly mentioned its willingness to sit down with the U.S. Before and during the Olympics, Pyongyang was reluctant to speak with U.S. delegates, saying it wouldn't use the Olympics as a political opportunity. And just last week, the North's state-run news agency reported that the target of the regime's nuclear arms is the United States. But whether the North is really ready to discuss denuclearization with the U.S. in earnest is still up for debate.
Kim Myung-chul apparently did not mention the word denuclearization of nuclear weapons yet. So we don't know whether North Korea's willingness to talk with the United States is about nuclear weapons of North Korea, or as it has pushed before, that any talks is possible if nuclear weapon is not the agenda of the talks with the United States.
South Korea has been keen to keep up the dialogue momentum with North Korea and eventually have that lead to talks between Washington and Pyongyang. But whether the North is actually willing to meet Washington's condition and discuss this nuclear program remains to be seen. 오정희, Arirang News.
The North Korean athletes and cheering squad returned home on Monday. Their visit went without any hiccups. With talks of further inter-Korean dialogue, according to our Kwon Jang-ho, they left on a warm wishes with hopes of meeting again someday.
19 days after the North Korean cheering squad arrived in the south, grabbing the world's attention with their rhythmic and enthusiastic cheers, it was time to go home. The group looked relaxed and cheerful, even posing for the odd photo with the hotel staff. As they boarded the bus to travel to the border, they expressed their hopes of meeting again.
It was a historic occasion, and let's meet again. We cheered strongly. Let's continue working to become one and rise up for our people.
The hotel staff, who have seen them up close over the past couple of weeks, came out to see them off, offering their warm wishes.
I don't know what it will be, but if we can meet each other again, I hope they remember us. I hope they saw the good sides of our country and take with them good feelings.
The cheering squad met up with the North's Olympic athletes at the border checkpoint, including the figure skating pair Lim Tae-ok and Kim Ju-sik, as well as the members of the unified ice hockey team. They passed on further messages of goodwill.
After working together for this past month, I strongly felt that if our people join forces, we will be able to achieve anything we want.
And although the group of nearly 300 North Koreans returned north, it won't be long before another sporting delegation and cheering squad heads to the south. North Korea is sending a 150-member delegation for the PyeongChang Paralympics, which starts March 9th. The two Koreas will hold talks at the border village of Panmunjom on Tuesday to discuss the details of that visit. Kwon Jang-ho, Arirang News.
The excitement of the 2018 PyeongChang Winter Olympics is behind us, but memories will live on. Tons of dramatic moments have been captured and numerous historic records were broken. Let's turn to our Kim Mo-kyun for a recap.
South Korea's second Olympics in 30 years has finally closed its curtains, ending its 17-day run. A record 2,920 athletes from 92 countries participated in 102 events across 15 different sports. The host country had 146 athletes competing, 3 times more than it had at the Vancouver 2010 Winter Olympics. North Korea also re-entered the Olympic stage for the first time in 8 years, with 22 athletes competing in 5 events. In terms of the medal tally, a total of 102 gold medals were up for grabs this year, the first time over 100 gold medals have been handed out at a Winter Olympics, and over 30 different nations took home at least 1 medal. Norway won a whopping 39 medals at PyeongChang 2018, beating the USA's record of 37 in 2010 to become the country that earned the highest number of medals in a single Winter Olympics. South Korea also clinched the most medals in its Winter Olympic history with a total of 17 medals, 5 gold, 8 silver, and 4 bronze. And dozens of new records were set. 3 world records and 25 Olympic records were broken in the ice sports events. 6 new Olympic records were made in speed skating and 15 more in short track speed skating, including the 3 world records. Wu Dajing won China's first gold medal in the men's 500 meters, finishing with a world record of 39.584 seconds. The Netherlands women's 3,000-meter short track relay team also set a world record time of 4 minutes, 3.471 seconds. South Korean athletes broke Olympic records in 5 short track events, with Olympic champion Choi Min-jung breaking the record twice in the women's 500-meter event. There were also many significant firsts in the Winter Games. South Korea's Ironman Yoon Sang-bin took the host nation's first gold in not only skeleton, but in any Olympic sledding event, finishing 1.63 seconds ahead of the silver medalist from Russia. And the famous women's curling team also clinched South Korea's first medal for the event in only the country's second Olympic curling appearance. And finally, South Korean alpine snowboarder Lee Sang-ho became the first Asian to win an Olympic medal in the men's alpine snowboarding event. Kim Mo-kyun, Arirang News.
South Korea finished 7th overall with a record-breaking medal harvest in the PyeongChang Games. 17 comprised of 5 gold, 8 silver, and 4 bronze. A disbanding ceremony was held inside the athletes' village in Gangneung for the Olympians, coaches, and officials of the host nation. Culture Minister Do Jung-hwan was also there to praise the athletes for their hard work. Team Korea fell short of its target of winning 8 golds and a 4th-place finish, but raked in record number of medals in 6 different disciplines, beating its previous best of 14 in 3 events. With the screams Yeong-mi echoing through the stadium becoming an increasingly familiar sight, the Korean women's curling team was arguably the biggest fan favorite in this Olympics. Other than being nearly unbeatable, their unique style, characteristics, team chemistry, and contagious enthusiasm clearly set the ladies apart from their competitors. Lee Jung-yeon gets us better acquainted with the curlers that rose from relative obscurity to almost winning gold while elevating the popularity of the once unfamiliar sport.
Korean women's curling team garnered a lot of international attention at the PyeongChang Winter Olympics, with the foreign press coming up with nicknames such as Team Kim, as all the members' last names are Kim, and the better-known Garlic Girls, referring to their garlic-producing home county of Uiseong. According to local media, however, the members did not take such a liking to these nicknames and decided to come up with their own. They each took a name from their breakfast menu. Kim Yeong-mi came up with pancake. Kim Seon-young was Sunny after sunny-side-up eggs. Kim Eun-jung was known as Annie, a brand of yogurt. Kim Kyung-hae was steak. And Kim Cho-hee, aka Cho-Cho, after chocolate. Another name that's going down in history is Yeong-mi, one of the members' names. The public has come up with their own interpretations for the different ways in which Kim Eun-jung yelled out this name. Yeong-mi refers to start sweeping according to the direction of the stone's movement. Yeong-mi-ya refers to stop sweeping and wait. A frantic Yeong-mi-ya means sweep as fast as you can. And a repeated Yeong-mi, Yeong-mi, Yeong-mi is you can stop sweeping now. Korea saw many firsts at this year's PyeongChang Winter Olympics, including Korea's recently discovered prowess in curling after the women's team took the world by storm and bringing home the silver, an unprecedented feat for an Asian team. The team helped curling turn from what was one of the most unfamiliar games for Koreans at the beginning of the Olympics into a head-turner for the nation. Now, with the piqued interest in the discipline thanks to the astonishing performance of Annie, Pancake, Sunny, Steak, and Cho-Cho, the world is already expecting to see more milestones set by this incredible team 4 years down the road. Lee Jung-yeon, Arirang News.
Various issues and concerns arose ahead of and during the 17-day-long sporting event. But before you knew it, we were consumed by the heat of the thrilling competition and dazzling display of skills and Olympic spirit, and it drew to a close. While the general consensus is that the PyeongChang Games was a huge success, our Lee Ji-won went to hear directly from those who were closer to the action.
From tears of joy, sighs of disappointment to exhilarating excitement, the past 17 days of the PyeongChang Winter Olympics were packed with incident and raw emotions. Now that the event is over, many are looking back at their February in South Korea's alpine town of PyeongChang and the sub-host city of Gangneung. Many commented on how it was a huge success.
I've been to 16 Olympics now, winter and summer. I thought this was one of the best ones I've ever been to in terms of organization, in terms of logistics, in terms of just the quality of the infrastructure. You want it to be as easy as possible to move around and to enjoy the games.
The friendliness of the locals and volunteers was also praised.
We've been really impressed by how nice actually all the locals have been to us and how especially patient, because we don't speak any Korean, and even with a very wide language barrier, everyone's been really accommodating. And
of the many highlights was North Korea's participation in the Games. While the decision and process was initially controversial, people say these exchanges prove the Olympics is more than just a sporting event.
Not just bold, but I think it sent a message to the world. And there's really only one place that could do that, and that is here in South Korea and here in PyeongChang. And a lot of people say, oh, but that's, politics hijacking the Games. No, actually, this is not a story about politics. This is a story about people.
The bone-chilling temperatures during the Games was a major concern, and it caused a number of snow events to be postponed. But journalists who've covered numerous Winter Olympics say cold is not a problem for winter sports.
Olympics are so big, there are always going to be issues, and those certainly were issues. In terms of the weather, yeah, it was very cold the first week, but in a way, this is the Winter Olympics. They're supposed to be cold.
Visitors also suggested room for improvements.
I think that they should have taught English to most of the workforce, because sometimes, well, I don't speak Korean, and as a foreigner, it was hard for me to get the information.
It wasn't that expensive to book a place to stay, but I came here to watch numerous events on different days, and there weren't many vacancies.
With a general consensus that the PyeongChang Olympics were a success, many visitors said one of the best legacies of the Games is that South Korea took a step forward in presenting itself to the world, and the world got to know Korea better as well. 이지원, 아리랑 뉴스, 평창.
President Moon Jae-in joined in the growing number of supporters of the nation's MeToo movement, pledging to use all available means to make sure sexual harassment can no longer find a place in Korea. In a weekly meeting of his top aides on Monday, the Liberal leader expressed respect to the brave victims who spoke up against powerful figures involved in the cases and urged thorough investigations.
문화와 의식이 바뀌어야 하는 문제인 만큼 범사회적인 미투 운동의 확산과 각 분야별 자정 운동이 필요하다고 생각합니다.
South Korea has seen the MeToo movement spread from the cultural to academic sector in recent weeks, with many women publicly coming forward accusing high-profile individuals in art, entertainment, literature, and religion of sexual misconduct. South Korea's central bank released its preliminary data on the nation's terms of trade. Export prices in January went up, but was slightly offset by a hike in import prices. Kim Ha-sung breaks down the digits for us.
Korea's import value index in January jumped 21.9% on year, coming to 130.06, the highest figure in almost 4 years. According to the Bank of Korea on Monday, the import value index increased on the back of rising imports of equipment, machinery, and coal and petroleum products. The value index for exports also rose last month on year by 22.7% thanks to rising shipments of electronic devices like DRAM and NAND flash and chemical products such as cosmetics goods. The volume index for exports also went up by almost 15%.
Both the import and export value indexes have increased for more than a year amid improving global trade as demand for goods increased.
Korea's net barter terms of trade, which measures the amount of imports a country can buy for each unit of exports, dropped to a near 3-year low. It fell by nearly 1% as export prices were offset by rising import prices. Part of that was due to global oil prices. Dubai crude went up more than 23% on year. Kim Ha-sung, Arirang News.
Investigation into allegations surrounding former President Lee Myung-bak's connection to DAS and its suspicious business activities continues. Prosecutors looking into the ownership of the auto parts company and rumors of a secret slush fund are focusing on his family members now. Lee himself may be summoned for questioning. Park Hee-jun gets us up to speed with the developments.
After concluding that DAS, an auto parts company involved in suspicious trade and allegations of embezzlement, belongs to ex-President Lee Myung-bak, prosecutors are closing in on his family members. On Monday morning, prosecutors raided the home and office of Lee Myung-bak's son-in-law Lee Sang-ju, who's an executive at Samsung Electronics and husband to the former president's eldest daughter. He's suspected of receiving illegal funding from an unknown third party on behalf of the ex-president. Prosecutors are likely to call him in for questioning soon so they can trace the money flow. And on Sunday, prosecutors summoned the former president's son Lee Si-hyung, an executive of DAS, over rumors about who actually owns the company and allegations that the company had a secret slush fund. During 16 hours of questioning at the Seoul Central District Prosecutor's Office, Lee was asked whether he took a $930,000 portion of the $14 million proceeds from the sale of land in Togok-dong, southern Seoul. Lee Myung-bak is believed to have managed hundreds of thousands of dollars in slush funds through DAS. His son, brother, and nephew are all either representatives or board members of the company, which has been under scrutiny since 2007 when Lee won the presidential election. Documents show that his brother Lee Sang-eun is the president. However, civic activists and lawyers have been claiming the former president is the unknown, actual owner of the company and that he embezzled some $11 million of company money and evaded taxes. The investigation has been ongoing since December, and prosecutors are planning to summon Lee Myung-bak early next month. Park Hee-jun, Arirang News.
Elsewhere around the world, multiple earthquakes struck 3 countries early Monday. All of the tremors struck nations sitting on the Asian-Pacific side of the Ring of Fire. Papua New Guinea was the most adversely affected. A 7.5 magnitude quake hit about 560 kilometers northwest of the nation's capital, Port Moresby, creating landslides and causing buildings to collapse. According to some local media, there have been at least 10 casualties, but the government is yet to confirm the number. At least 14 aftershocks of up to 6.0 magnitude have rattled the country, prompting oil and gas firms to halt operations and residents to evacuate. Additional tremors measuring more than 5.2 were also reported from Yilan County of Taiwan and Fukushima in Japan early morning, but no tsunami alerts have been issued. Time to turn to Michelle Bach at the Weather Center for the updates you need. Michelle, by the looks of the weather, we have a head start on spring, it seems.
That's right, Daniel. The cold has let up and it's truly feeling like spring. But currently there is a dry weather alert in effect mostly in the southern provinces. However, luckily rain is on its way this week. Also, make sure to check the fine dust levels before you head out tomorrow, especially if you are in the central part of the country. The dust is flowing in from the west as we speak, and Seoul's air status is already at bad. Tomorrow morning, Seoul and most places are expected to start off at 0 degrees Celsius, while Busan remains warm at 5 degrees. And it'll stay warm with Seoul rising up to 8 degrees, while Gwangju and Busan both hit 15 degrees. We are hoping the nationwide rain on Wednesday to ease off the dryness, but after the rain, the mercury is expected to drop in a big way, but it will warm up again as we head into the weekend. So until then, dress warmly and take care of yourself so that you don't get sick. I'll leave you with the weather conditions around the world.
That's all for tonight's edition of Arirang News Center, wherever you may be tuning in from. Thank you for staying with us.
Among Korea's many valuable cultural treasures exhibited at the National Museum of Korea, there is an artifact that seems different from the others. It is a bronze helmet that has been designated as treasure number 904. This helmet was made in hopes of victory at the ancient Greek Olympic Games and presumed to have been made in the Greek region of Corinth in 6th century BC. How did this ancient Greek bronze helmet become designated as a treasure of Korea? In 1936, the Japanese occupation period, Son Gi-jung